Thank you for joining us today. I'm Helen Jung. I'm the opinion editor with the Oregonian. We are here talking with Commissioner Ann Hardesty about a measure on the November ballot that would amend the charter to create a new independent police oversight board. I'm wondering, Commissioner, if you can just kind of walk us through what this measure would do.
Yes, thank you so much, Helen. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this measure. What this measure would do would be to create a truly independent police oversight board that would not have police officers on the board itself. What's on the ballot will give people the opportunity to vote for a board that would have the ability to compel testimony. They will have a set budget. They'll be able to hire independent non-police investigators to investigate cases of police misconduct, and they will also be able to implement discipline up to and including firing police officers. They will also be able to report to the City Council annually on policy recommendations based on what they've learned over the year that they've been meeting.
Great, thank you. Can you talk a little bit about how this would work in a sense of, you mentioned, for instance, the ability to compel testimony. Yes. Is passing this charter amendment, does that automatically give that power?
No, it doesn't. So once we pass this measure on November 3rd, there will be two other things that will have to happen prior to this new oversight board being seated. One, we'll have to change the arbitration law in Salem to make sure that a community oversight board's decision is final. And so it would not be subject to arbitration. The second thing we'll have to do is make that change to the Portland Police contract. And as you know, we will start that contract talks again in January of 2021. So after the measure passed, a community commission will be put in place, and they will work on the details of this oversight board, like how many members it will have, how will it be ethnically and racially diverse, as well as geographically diverse, how will we make sure that people who have to leave the board will be able to be replaced, how long they will serve, and all those other details that aren't necessary for the charter. The reason to put this in the charter is so that the elected leaders can't change it. It would have to be changed by a vote of the people.
And you mean in terms of having this kind of independent body?
Yeah.
Who would it report to, or where would it be housed?
It would be housed outside of City Hall. So they will have their own office space. They will have their own professional staff, and they will be housed where they think they should be housed. So they will decide where they're going to be housed. They will decide how the community engages in that process. These will be public meetings. So what currently happens behind closed doors will be happening in a setting mostly that will be public and transparent.
And is there, I guess, what's the accountability mechanism for that board? For instance, how would
you freeze, Helen?
I'm sorry? Oh, I was wondering what the accountability mechanism would be for.
Teresa, I think Helen may have frozen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you, let's see. Let me try.
Yeah, Helen, you're just freezing slightly and then coming back.
Okay, let me turn off my video and see if that helps. Okay, so let me, are you guys hearing me right now, or am I still breaking up?
It's good.
Okay.
So the commissioner's video is frozen now.
Oh.
So it might be heard.
Okay.
Commissioner, if you can hear me. Oh, okay. She did drop off, unfortunately. All right, I'm going to stop recording, and then I'll start when she comes back.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. Commissioner, can you tell me a little bit about what is the accountability mechanism for this oversight board, then if it's not housed in any bureau?
Right. Well, as you know, the city will provide the funds for this oversight board. And the accountability will be with the City Council, with the elected leaders of the Portland City Council. We will appoint the board, the initial board, and that board will be accountable to the City Council. They'll be required to report back to the city council annually, and they will be required to do financial audits to ensure that we are being good stewards of the public dollars.
Okay, thank you. One question I have is, you noted some of the changes that would have to occur in state law as well as with a police contract.
Yes.
Is this happening in the wrong order? Does, because those are going to be pretty heavy lifts, is there reason to wait a year for the charter amendment to make sure that those other elements?
The beauty of this is when we overwhelmingly support this measure on November 3rd, in January we will see the commission that will do the additional work that's necessary. The Charter Review Commission will also be seated in January of 2021. And as you know, the legislature will meet in January of 2021. I have a commitment already from the legislative body that this will be a priority bill, the change in the arbitration rules as they currently stand. And for the first time in my memory, we have an outside attorney.
Oh, Commissioner, unfortunately, I think you may have frozen again.
I think we should have her turn off her video. Commissioner, you should turn your video off so that your audio comes through more clearly.
All right, I will do that. All right, let's see if that works better.
Okay, yes, and so you were talking about the legislature is going to be meeting. There's the
Right, the legislature will meet in January, and if they have a special session in December, we will get that change made then. And as far as waiting a couple of years, the reason to put this in the charter now is that because the Charter Review Commission will be meeting as of January 2021, if there are additional charter changes necessary, then we will have the ability to do that. The reason to put this into the charter is so that elected leaders cannot change it. It can only be changed by a vote of the people.
Okay. And so there could be, though, amendment or changes to this charter amendment as soon as the Charter Commission itself finishes its work.
That is, while they're doing that work, they'll be working for 2 years, looking at every corner of the charter and having community conversations. And so the beauty of this is all this work happens simultaneously. And so at the end of that 2 years, we will have a new community oversight board that will be truly independent, that will be able to hold police accountable for inappropriate behavior.
So one of the elements of this charter amendment is a specific budget figure as part of it, where it's 5% of the police bureau's budget. Can you talk about how you arrived at 5% and why you think it makes sense to have that enshrined in the charter?
Thank you for that question. Yes, 5% because our research around the country shows that when elected leaders or other powerful influencers aren't happy with community oversight boards, they reduce their budget. And they reduce their budget to ensure they don't have the resources to do the job that they are supposed to do. So enshrining it into the charter means that that cannot be changed unless the people in the city of Portland want it changed.
And Teresa, I think you had a question.
Yes, it regarded the ability to compel testimony on the part of officers. And I had understood that when an officer is compelled to testify or compelled to make any statements, that it then limited how those statements could be used in the future in any disciplinary matter.
Well, remember, this is community oversight, right? This, their work will be driven by community complaints. Therefore, there should be no concern about whether or not those statements would not be able to be used in order to inform what the appropriate discipline should be. Now, that is the case when it comes to the DA actually making, charging an officer for misconduct. But again, this has nothing to do with the DA's process. This is the community's oversight process.
And they would have the power to discipline in terms of, and even terminate officers?
That is correct.
And that's something I assume would also have to be an element of the new police contract.
Yes, and really the new police contract just needs to say that any community oversight board's decision is final.
The Portland Police Association has raised questions about the legality of some of the elements of the charter amendment. Can you tell me what kind of legal review this has had?
Absolutely. We've had 4 city attorneys actually help us develop this ballot measure. In addition, we've had 3 outside attorneys that are civil rights attorneys also review this ballot measure. So I am absolutely confident that this ballot measure will stand up to any legal challenge, either by the Portland Police Association or anyone else.
The city auditor has also raised some concerns about the lack of public involvement in creating the specific measure that is going to the ballot. Can you talk about just your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think the public adequately understands what this is going to do?
Not only does the public adequately understand, the public's been asking for this change for well over 30 years. The last time the City Hall had the opportunity to truly implement these changes was in 2003, when then Mayor Vera Katz created a task force on police accountability because PIAC, our old police accountability system, was extremely frustrated with their inability to hold police accountable for inappropriate behavior. And so I am confident that this ballot measure will do exactly what we're telling the voters it will do, and it will make sure that there is accountability for police misconduct. Today, we have IPR, which isn't truly independent and really is not valued as a way to hold police accountable. Prior to the Department of Justice coming to Portland, IPR threw out over 60% of the complaints that they got in. Even today, they are refusing to take complaints of community members who have been victimized by police during the protests that have been taking place over the last 120 plus days. The fact that we have an oversight system that actually refuses to do their job is the reason why this ballot measure is so necessary.
So are you saying that they're not accepting complaints at all, or is there a procedural issue?
Well, I have heard from many community members that the IPR office has said when police have been beating people in the head with batons that they chase down the street, that was within policy so that they wouldn't take a complaint. They refuse to take complaints about racially disparate treatment because they say that basically it's the person's word against the police officer. I think that is not an oversight system that the public has faith in. And as I was saying, before the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division came in town, IPR threw out 60% of complaints. And that's not acceptable.
What do you think is the problem with IPR? Because I think some of the issues that would remain with this charter amendment are some of the things that that IPR has had concerns with, like the inability to subpoena officer testimony, and gosh, I'm forgetting about what the other one is.
Let me just say, even today, IPR cannot directly ask the question of an officer being investigated. They have to ask the question of the officer's representative, and then the representative asks the officer the question. I think that's ludicrous. When you're investigating police misconduct, officers should be compelled to testify. And today, that is not the case. An IPR will never be the system that will allow that to happen.
Okay. The officer representative, is that also an issue that's going to be negotiated with the union?
No, because it won't be built into the system like it's built into the IPR system.
Okay.
So the flaws that we currently see in both IPR and the CRC are flaws that have been identified by the community over and over again, and they've not been resolved. And so that's why we need a brand new system. We cannot take a system based on the fact that police are the only people that can investigate police misconduct and then make it a community oversight system. That's why we have to start from scratch. And that's why this ballot measure is so key to us starting the process of holding police accountable for inappropriate behavior.
So would this community oversight board be considered, would their investigation be considered an administrative proceeding by the employer? And this is kind of to get into the question about if you're compelled to give a statement, does that then become problematic in using it in any kind of criminal investigation afterwards?
Well, again, the Community Oversight Board would not have any connection to the DA's office as far as criminal prosecution. They will not be sending cases to the DA. Their job will be to investigate community complaints as well as deaths in custody. And so, no, they will not be, that issue will not apply to this Community Oversight Board.
Commissioner, it's really a question of whether the board is part of the city, which is the employer of the police officer, because there is a court case, the Garrity case, that says if the employer compels an officer to testify, then that testimony cannot be used in subsequent criminal acts. And since more police officers than in the past are being criminally prosecuted, I'm just curious as to whether this board is part of the city.
Well, let me just say that in my time in Portland, there's only once a police officer has faced discipline for inappropriately using force against a community member. Only once, and it's only happened twice in the history of Portland Police Bureau. And the one time it happened in the 30 years I've been here, that officer unfortunately committed suicide before his case made it through the criminal justice system. I think we continue to use that excuse to not hold police accountable, but what we know is that police are not prosecuted at all. And so I don't see that as a problem or a barrier that we need to overcome.
And when you said that only one time that a police officer has faced discipline, do you mean that?
I mean criminal discipline from the DA actually pressing charges against an officer for an inappropriate use of force. That's happened only once in my 30 plus years in Portland. And I understand it's only happened twice in the history of Portland Police Bureau.
Okay. So I'm sorry, and I believe you did mention this earlier, but the next steps, like if this is passed on November 3rd, then the next step would be to appoint a commission. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And will this commission then be, are these the actual members, or would they be developing the structure?
No. These are the people who will actually continue the community dialogue. As you said earlier, you asked if there was community input. And there was. I had at least 3 community meetings with a diverse group of community members as we were developing this ballot measure. But again, this measure itself is not unique because every time the city of Portland has put together a task force or blue ribbon oversight committee to review how to hold police accountable, this has been the #1 demand, and it has never been met by the city of Portland.
And is this modeled after anyone else, any other city that has a community oversight board?
A really good question. Actually, what we did talk to several community oversight boards. I believe this one will be a national model because it's taken what has worked well in some communities and what hasn't worked well, and actually put it into this particular ballot measure. For example, in many communities that have a community oversight board, if the elected leaders or the political powers don't like the outcome of their work, then they will defund them. That's why putting the funding into the charter is so key.
Great. I know that Laura Gunderson was able to join us. I don't know if, Laura, do you have any questions? Sorry,
No, thank you. I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm kind of having bandwidth issues today, but thank you. I'm enjoying the discussion.
Well, thank you for being here.
And
Thank
Teresa,
you.
anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
If I might add just one more statement, I just want to make this very clear. This is not an anti-police ballot measure. This is a measure that's about accountability. And good police officers will not fear this oversight by the community, because if police officers are doing a good job, they should not fear this ballot measure. This ballot measure is really about police officers who have not been held accountable by the mechanisms that are in place. And I thank you very much for reaching out and having this conversation with us today.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I'm sorry about our technical difficulties, but I'm glad that we were able to have the conversation.
You and me both. And you know, in our current virtual universe, we expect data problems sometimes, but we were able to overcome those.
Yes.
Have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you so much.